Welcome back to the newsroom here on Live from Paris on France 24. Matthew Warren is with us for the business news. Hello there.
Hi, Catherine.
And we're going to be starting off with a sports story making the business news. Not very often that happens, but this is the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson from Manchester United, and basically everyone's talking about it.
They are. He's been called, of course, the most successful manager in English football history, and news of his departure sent the company's share price down 2% on Wednesday. Kyle Brown explains.
Once a highly indebted team, Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson has amassed an estimated global fan base of more than 600 million followers. A series of lucrative sponsorship deals have made Man U a major money-making machine. The team is backed by big sponsors such as Nike and insurer Aon. Last year, it signed a 7-year deal with General Motors worth more than 400 million euros. Commercial revenues make up the largest portion of Man U's sales, 39%. Broadcasting revenue comprises 24% of the club's sales. Add to this the club's ticket sales. The robust revenues continue to be fueled by United's strong performance on the pitch. But the markets are nervous over the team's ability to perform when Sir Alex leaves.
Well, I think there's a strong argument here of much higher risk in the longer term. The new manager is going to be under enormous pressure, and the only way you can keep that share price where it is continuing to win the major trophies.
Having significantly reduced its debt, the club is valued at more than €2.25 billion and is ranked among the richest sports teams in the world. Now the question for investors, which include SAC Capital and George Soros, is what effect Ferguson's departure will have on Man U's earning capacity.
So that's Manchester United's shares down there. Matthew, how are the rest of the markets and shares looking?
Well, markets in Asia are pretty mixed so far this Thursday. Take a look and you'll see the Kospi there in South Korea is the only one currently making gains, up over 1%. The central bank there in South Korea cut its key interest rate by 0.25% to 2.5%. So that has got investors in a buying mood, as you can see. Meanwhile, the Shanghai Composite, you can see, is almost down a full percent. Now, China reported some inflation data. That's behind what's going on there. And the 2.4% rise in April is up on that March figure, but it's still below the 3% target for the year. So just raising a few concerns about the economy again.
Now, China has made a lot of investments in Africa in recent years, and a conference is underway about the economy in Africa.
That's right, and it's known as the Davos of Africa. And when we talk about Davos, we're used to seeing snowy mountains, freezing temperatures, but this one is in Africa, in a slightly warmer climate in South Africa, to be precise. It's the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum and gathers together 1,000 heads of state, business people, various observers, journalists like us as well, of course. Now, a key concern in Africa is how to reduce the continent's dependence on commodities, particularly as prices have slumped recently, and that's particularly true for the price of gold. But nevertheless, the region is expected to grow by 5% this year, and it continues to attract investment.
We're seeing unprecedented interest at the moment from international clients, so potential US clients, potential European clients, and that really speaks to the fact that Africa is growing very quickly at the moment. There are risks, but Africa is delivering good rewards at the same time and good returns.
Because that's happening in South Africa. But back here in Europe, did you know that almost 60 million people in Europe don't have bank accounts? And there are new proposals, Matthew, that are hoping to change all of that.
Yes, that's right. These are from the European Commission. They want to make it easier for people around the European Union to open accounts if they want to. They say about half that number do want to open accounts. It also wants customers to get more information about fees and also makes switching easier. Well, Luke Schrago has this report.
Making banks easier for people to deal with right across the EU. At least that's the plan the European Commission wants to put into effect.
We want transparency in each country and to allow price comparisons between European countries. This in itself is going to bring these prices down because customers will be able to change banks more easily. I think banks will have to be very careful before applying inexplicable prices to some transactions.
Throughout Europe, around 59 million people don't even have a bank account, including half the populations of Bulgaria and Romania, and a further 2.5 million have been denied the chance of opening one. Under the proposed legislation, they'd have access to cheaper, if not free, services. Regulating fees across the continent and making it easier to switch accounts would also spur competition and lead to lower costs. However, not everyone's thrilled with the new proposals, and some have suggested ordinary clients would pay the price.
There's no such thing as free service in this world, or in banks either. So if they're obligated to offer basic accounts to certain people for free, they'll probably have to compensate by passing the costs on to other customers.
It'll be some time before any action's possible, however. Both the EU Parliament and all 27 member states need to agree first, a process that could take up to 3 years.
Well, Luke Schrager reporting there. Well, let's get some of the day's company news now. And profits at Rupert Murdoch's News Corp tripled to almost $3 billion. A one-time gain from including the German operations of its Sky network provided around $2 billion of that increase. Revenue jumps at its cable TV networks and the success of The Life of Pi movie also helped.
The former head of Enron could see his jail term cut by 10 years. Jeffrey Skilling is serving a 24-year prison sentence on fraud charges linked to the company's collapse. The deal with the Department of Justice follows an appeal court ruling that the original sentence was too long.
And the electric car maker Tesla has reported its first profit in 10 years. The US-based company made $11 million in the first 3 months of the year. Its Model S car helping to boost revenues by 83% from the previous quarter.
Some sporty little numbers there for electric cars. I thought they were all like milk floats and things.
Not anymore.
Those are quite attractive, aren't they? And speaking of attractive cars, a British secret agent who's known for driving very nice sports cars helped to boost the popularity of European films in 2012.
Yes, that's right. I don't think we've seen him in an electric car yet, but
Not
I'm
yet.
sure the day will not be far away. But we did see him most recently in Skyfall, and that turned out to be the most popular European film last year, at least here in Europe. Now, it qualifies as European because it was majority British produced, not totally, but majority. But it's helped to lift the share of European films here in Europe to 33%. That's the highest for over 10 years. Over 44 million people in Europe went to see Skyfall, and the next two most popular were both French films, Les Intouchables, or The Untouchables, which has been really popular here in France, most popular film here in France.
And exported to so many countries around the world as well.
It's done brilliantly. That was number 2. And Taken 2, which is the Liam Neeson film. I didn't realise that was French, actually, although I think it was set in
French
France.
director and shot in Istanbul.
Ah, that's right. The first one was in
European
Paris, wasn't it? Good film. I saw that as well. So that's done pretty well as well. And moviegoer numbers did drop, though, here in France, but that's because they had a record year in 2011. But I was looking at the data, and the Scandinavians, it seems, are desperate to go to the cinema. Finland, Sweden, Denmark, movie going up 10% there. Must have been very cold.
Exactly. Cold winter in Scandinavia. Thanks very much, Matthew Warren, with that wrap-up of the day's top business news stories. That rounds off this half hour of news here on France 24. Thanks for being with us. Stuart Norvell back with more news in just a second.